an obsessive compulsive person, which is not me. So, anyway, I started out at the Kern. After going to college and getting a degree in political science, I ended up doing a childhood dream of going to art school at night. And while there was a lot of beautiful abstract color work being shown. New York, Washington. Washington had the Washington Color School painters. And when it was time for me to have my own studio after 6 years, I found that I was building all these big stretchers. I mean, I built and built and built. But the idea of entering this canvas, the way a lot of the either abstract expressionists or other people, where you start with a wet paintbrush, and then you dialogue with whatever you've done with the wet paintbrush, and this back and forth, it didn't invite me in. It was like I kept building and building. So one day I was at the Museum of American Art, and I saw some intimate collages that a man had built out of scraping posters in Paris off of the walls. So I left my studio and I started scraping posters, and then I realized there were civil rights posters, and I was not going to be scraping civil rights posters. And I began picking up little pieces of flotsam and jetsam, and some things were particularly beautiful, like the end of a typewriter ribbon was magenta. And we had, in those days, I'm dating myself really big time, we had to change our own typewriter ribbons, and at the end of it was this gorgeous magenta. So the small collages, which you can see on my website under the About section, were 20 years of experimentation, and when I was ready to paint, I knew what I wanted, then I started doing these. And this is the culmination of my work. That's pretty much my whole story. I will take questions up into a 10-minute limit when Chris is going to yank me off the bench. Does anybody have any questions?
What's next?
What's next? More of the same. I'm going to dialogue with all of this. I'd love to see some of these little ones bigger. I mean, they really speak to me, and some of them feel big even though they're small. So I think this is it for life. I'm a lifer at this.
Do you have pieces for another show?
What's that?
Do you have pieces for another show?
Oh, what's next? I have a series that's called the Silk Road series of 4 large pieces that I have glued and finished. So I hope to show them. So that's next. And I also have maybe 10 or 12 other pieces that are composed. And so, yeah.
Jan, explain a little bit about the significance of the Peruvian stars, can you please?
Yes. The Star series, this piece is called Joyful Renewal, and Joyful Reemergence. I had seen a textile at the Textile Museum years ago, and it was 8-pointed stars, and it had been discovered, it was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years old. And at the time I saw it, I was in the middle of going through a lot with the thyroid cancer scans and stuff. And the longevity spoke to me, I think. And then I noticed 8-pointed stars all over the world, and really loved that. And so this piece is, this piece in particular is called Joyful Reemergence because after the first brain surgery, I had what felt like almost a mystical experience where I just felt connected to everything. So if you look at that, you'll see there's plants in the floral, and that was from a block from an Indian factory. So it had another life as a textile block. And you'll see zebra stripes, and you'll see all kinds of things interwoven. So it's the interwovenness of that particular piece. Any other question?
Yeah, Jen, talk about hands.
Hands. Oh yeah, hands. Well, first of all, they're my hands. So they're kind of me, but the hands go back to an exhibit of Ice Age art that I saw way back in the early 70s. And they had photographs of hands from Paleolithic caves. Some of these caves go back, they now know, more than 30,000 years. And the painters, well, these early people would leave images of their hands that they would blow, probably think they blew, but there would be a stencil and the ochre had been placed on the wall, and there was the image of their hand. We don't know what it means, but across the ages, there's their hand. My friend Patty, who's here, brought me pictures of hands all over a wall in India. Everywhere you go, there are hands. Hands are just such a symbol. For me, ideas come from working with my hands. I also believe, and I've heard, that the use of the hands triggers the brain in ways that not using the hands doesn't. So that the idea of the interaction. So that is, the zebra stripes there are, again, this sort of idea of the remarkable connectedness of everything kind of blows me away.